So today I'm using a number of techniques to finish off this particular crawler hill that I'm doing. So I'll flick the camera around and I'll show you the mixture of techniques I'm using. So, as you've seen me doing this part, and you've seen me sanding it down with wet and dry paper, sandpaper. So now what I've done is I've glued some pieces on here with PVA glue. Yeah, cardboard, off cuttings from my expanding foam. So you can see mixture of off cuttings, some paper. Again, this paper I used, and this is just to bring this hill down. And of course, you can't just plaster all of this. If it was like this, yes, you could just run your pre-mixed plaster on it. But no, some of these gaps are huge. You couldn't fill any of this with plaster. So what I do is I use this stuff, which is a plaster of Paris. That's what's available here. That's the brand we use here in Latvia. I get this from my local chemist shop. So you get a couple of rolls worth for €5. And you cut it into strips. You put it into warm water, dip it in, and then you put it on the track and contour it to wherever you want it to go. So you can mold it into all these hills and everything, and it gives you a nice sort of a smooth effect. So that's what I'm going to do today. I'm going to put the camera on the tripod and I'm going to let you watch me doing this. So I've put this plaster into a number of strips, all about this size here. Yeah, short sizes will do me just fine. You dip them in the water, you pull them out. Now you have to be careful with this, because if you get in big trouble with whoever you share your home with, people get very annoyed with this, making a big mess in the house. Now this stuff goes rock hard very quickly. That's why they use it for plastering. If you go into a hospital with a broken arm or something similar, this is what they use to put it on your broken arm. Now let me see, I can bring that in there, and we can bring that there. Then what I use is a brush, a wet brush, wet the brush a little bit, and smooth this plaster out. And this already fills in a lot of holes that are in the plaster. Okay? And you can also use the brush to manipulate the plaster into places where you want it to go, so you get more realistic sort of look. Okay, so that's nice and smooth there. Give the brush a little wipe, get that plaster off the brush, because if you leave it too long, it'll go hard on the brush. So, dip another strip into my water. Water has to be not cold water, has to be a little bit warm. And get your brush, get your plaster. It's like the stuff we used to do in school when we were kids. Plaster Paris. I think they play computer games now. I don't know. I'm an old dinosaur, don't mind me. Okay, one more that I have cut, and then I'll pause the video. And then I'll show you how I'm dipping these into the water, just to make sure you know what I'm talking about. Okay, I think this one can go here. It'll try to bring this hill down here. I want to have a dip in there, so I'm going to actually let it sink into that. Again, use my wet brush to help manipulate it into that place. Get it down here into the corner here. Okay. Alright. Give your brush a little wipe just to get that plaster off it. Now, don't mind me for a second, my hands are covered in plaster, I don't want to go near my phone. So this can actually be quite a relaxing process. You know, it can be enjoyable. Take your time doing it, and you'll be very happy with what you get in the end. Just going to pause you guys. So these are the sheets I'm using, about this size. Hold it each side, try not to let it fold over, dip it in the water, put it out. Okay, let it drip a little bit. Come across, put it on your track. Get your brush, I wet it a bit. Right, you can push it into where you want it to go. Okay, you can brush it onto the sides. Don't forget, I'm going over the whole thing again with normal ready mix plaster that you can buy in the shops. So, you see, and that gives you this lovely sort of realistic incline. Yep, so I'm going to do the other side of that. Bring you up and bring you guys a bit doing. So I'm going to dip it in. I'm just going to cover this bit of the incline. Again, dip it in the water. Let it drip a little bit. Bring it across. Now, realistically, I could have used a smaller piece for that. I didn't need to use a piece quite so big for that. So you can brush it on, try and spread the plaster into the holes. When you wet it, the plaster, you see all the holes in this bandage, and then when you brush it, you put plaster into those holes, which also helps. Okay. Wet the brush again, just to make sure it doesn't go hard. If you get distracted, if someone phones you or you end up going to the door, your plaster will go hard very quickly on your brush. Let me bring it over here and I'll show you. So now we have this incline done. And it's because it's white, I'll take it off the tripod, it's kind of hard to see the grooves. When I paint it, you'll see that that does have various different pieces to it. You know, comes up and goes like this and that. So I'm going to do this piece here now. So again, we dip our plaster bandage into our water, and then we put it over our obstacle. And sometimes leave a crease. See this crease? Leave this crease in it. It's realistic. You know, so let it crease up. Don't be afraid to letting it crease up, and let it go dry like that. So very gently brush this, because I want to leave them creases in this piece. I actually like them. I'll be plastering over all of this in a while. Okay, very good. A good rinse of the brush. Now I'm going to do this piece here. Same thing again. As you know, if you're watching this now, I hope this gives you the confidence of trying it yourself. It's really easy. And you can start off with a test piece, just do something for fun. Now, so this piece, now we can leave that like that. It makes an interesting little hill. Brush it in, brush the plaster into the holes if you can, gently. You're probably better with a more gentle brush, but this brush will do. So that's like that. That'll go off. So that's that piece complete. So now we have this half of the mountain complete, you could say. We have all here done, down here done. So now we're going to go across to finish this area here. Bring you guys up a little bit. Now I won't show you this on the other mountains. This will show you exactly how I do it. So then you can just copy the process. So again, you don't have to, another thing, you don't need to do these in this. You could cut them this way. You know, and have a thin horizontal piece for covering only certain skinny areas. You know, you don't need to have big pieces this size. I'll give you an example. I cut this piece much smaller. You can use a couple of small pieces if you want to. Excuse me a minute while I just cut this piece into 2 smaller pieces. Okay, so we have 2 smaller pieces now. So I'm going to do this one first. Let's see what I can do with this one. I'm going to just cover this little rock outing, little rock crop here. Okay, sometimes you can also just wet your fingers, you know, and very gently use your finger to get that molded into the shape of what is a rock in modeling terms. There we are, that's all very good. Now we cover the next rock. Let me see. We have this little interesting piece here. So you can offer up, see what you want to do. Maybe I'll put this in this way. Let's try. So wet this piece. If you get a crease, don't kill yourself trying to uncrease it. Use it and then use another piece then just to finish off. So give it a wipe. Push it into that little gap there. And I can use plaster on some of these gaps that are still left. That's why I finish the whole job with the plaster and then I paint it afterwards. Sometimes you might have a hole like in there, you haven't pushed it into this hole here. Stick a bit of green foliage, you know, so stick some moss or something sticking out of that hole. Or, you know, paint it, put some PVA glue in it and stick a bit of green coming out of it where something has grown. So that's what you can do. Now, pause you guys again, I'll move the camera. Now we're up to this last few sections. So let's do this. Now, and what I'm going to do is, I'm just going to push this into this hole because I want a bit of a dip in the landscape there. So let's gently push this in here. There we are. So cover this piece of cardboard. That'll be a sharp edge here, so it looks like a sharp cut rock. And we need another little piece just to finish this piece here. And then I'll show you about this piece. So I'm just going to wet my brush in case I end up getting distracted. Now, cut a little small piece right here. So sometimes you get, see where I came across here with the plaster? And I ended up with a bit of a hole in there. So what I do is cut a bit of cardboard just to give it a bit of strength, a bit of integrity there. Right? Cut a very small piece of this stuff, wet it, okay, and just drape it over the hole. And that's it, job done. Again, you can use your fingers as well, gently if your fingers are wet. Wet your fingers before you do this with your fingers. Now this is, that's all gone very hard already. Okay, them pieces I've already done. It goes hard very quickly. All here is all hard. Now what about to do? This little piece here. Again, I don't need a big piece of this, so work wisely. You know, don't waste your stuff. You don't need to use loads of it on certain areas. This piece will go in here. Wet brush. Push it into wherever you want it to go. Just push it in there. It'll follow that groove. Now that's a little area where I'm painting. I'll probably paint in there with brown paint and have a sort of a little brown run going down here. So it'll be like a little water area where water has gathered, like it would do on a rock structure when there's just certain areas. So I have to learn how to do water. I'm sure you do some type of varnish or something. So guys, as I'm telling you here during this video, I'm no expert. I'm doing what I've learned to do. I originally looked at this on Boone's channel, so I always give credit to Boone. Boone's I think it's Slockhart Garage, I'm not sure. But I learned this stuff from watching Boone's channel. And then I've sort of progressed and done up my own little way of certain things. So, okay, let's stop this. I'll show you the last bit. We're nearly done. So I'm just going to cut a square piece to go over this. So you just got to sort of guess how much you need and how much you need to go cover it. You have to sort of work out in your head the height of the piece and the width at the bottom of the piece. I'm trying to cut a piece of this plaster stuff long enough to cover. So that's the piece I've made. So it's just about long enough to cover that what is now called a rock. I can again spread that plaster out, get those holes with a bit of plaster in them. And if there's any little places or folds that you're not happy with, you can redo it, or you can when you go at it with your ready mix plaster, like there, that's not great looking there. So with my ready mix plaster, I'll go over that and I'll fill in that a little bit, possibly. So we're almost finished. There's one or two places I see which I'd like to use this plaster of Paris for. And then we're finished with this hill. So I want to, this crack here, I'm going to fill this in with the plaster of Paris. And also here, just this little crack here. So I'll do that first. And then I think that'll be the end of the post. Then you've got the gist of what I'm doing. Now, I have a piece here that looks about right for there. So I'm just going to wet that piece. Sometimes they can fold over, and if they go crazy and really hard, well then, don't worry about it, use a different piece. Now this is just to sort of blend this piece in. Yeah. Wet my brush a bit, and brush it in. Okay. Then you're not trying to use, because the ready-made plaster is not really recommended to use it for very deep, because it won't go hard. It'll take a long time to go hard. So this means I can use a fairly thin amount of plaster. Ready mix. So I think we are almost there. So there's a few little touch-ups. Sorry guys, there's a few little touch-ups I can do. You know, I can maybe put a bit here, but I can fill this in with my normal spreadable plaster. Excuse me. Here I can put a little bit of plaster in here, and as I said, I can put a plant in there or something sticking out. And here I'm going to do now in a minute. So let me do the mugshot thing. So that's it. That's how I do one of my crawler hills. Or it could be just a hill as for scenery for your Slockhart track. Now next thing I do is I have to go and paint it. I'll do it grey, 50-50 mixed grey acrylic paint. I'll show you doing that in the next post. And then I have to do a bit of brown to where water might run down certain little places where you can imagine years of water has run down, so it's got to be a slightly different colour. And then I use a black wash over the whole thing, which gives it the rock look. It transforms with the black wash, which is a 6-to-1, 6 parts water to 1 part acrylic black. That brings the whole thing to life. And then at the very end of that, you use a dry white, where you have white, I use latex paint, does the job, but some dry paint. So you barely touch the brush in it, and you just sort of gently breeze it across and highlights those little edges of the rocks and everything. But I'll show you that in a later post as I do it. Thanks for watching guys, I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you learned something maybe possibly useful. Appreciate you all watching, and I completely appreciate any likes or subscriptions and any comments. By the way, I'm always happy to hear them.